Today, it happens to be raining, and the main question is, what do you do on a rainy day? Got to answer? Bake German apple cake. Today, we're going to be making German apple cake. To make this, you are going to need 2 eggs, 1 cup of vegetable oil, 2 cups of white granulated sugar, 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, half a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and today we're going to be making a gluten-free version of this apple cake, so I'm using almond flour. You're going to need a teaspoon of baking soda and 4 cups of apples. So we have a bunch of apples over here that we're going to dice later to fold into the batter. So let's get started with mixing the wet ingredients. First, we're going to, first you need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. And then you're gonna need a large bowl, and we're gonna put in the eggs and the oil and cream those together. And we're doing no egg separating this time. There's a lot of oil in this cake, so it doesn't call for any butter, because it's supposed to be, I think, a denser cake. Dense and moist, because not all cakes have to be fluffy. So we're gonna heat this together. Okay, and now we're going to add in, let's see, our 2 cups of sugar, and I might be out of sugar, so I'll see how much I have, and I might have to grab some more. Okay, so now we got the sugar. I really gotta refill this now. So the mixture should be getting thicker. And now we're going to add in our vanilla extract. And we actually made homemade vanilla. It's actually really easy to make. We made it with a crock pot. And it's exactly the same as what you can get in stores. And it makes a whole lot more of it. So it should be creamy. Now we're going to set this aside and start on our dry mixture. So for our dry mixture, first we're going to add in flour. And like I said before, we're using almond flour, which is a great substitute. I think it's almond flour, and what was the other flour that we used in it?
Rice.
Almond and rice flour, thank you.
It's half of each.
You put a cup of each in, and it makes a really nice flour substitute for if you're gluten-free, or just like to make gluten-free stuff instead of using wheat. So let's see, we're gonna add in 2 cups. We have a little spoon in here, so we can just use this instead of scooping it. Oh, and I've spilled some. anytime you don't remember what measurements to use, the recipe will be down in the description, so you can check that if you want to make this at home. And you can, of course, just use regular flour, but we're just using almond flour today. So now we need to add in, let's see, we need to add salt. So we're putting in half a teaspoon of salt. And salt's actually very important to the recipe because it just gives it a little bit more flavor, and without it, it's not going to be as good. Just gives it tiniest bit of flavor that ties it all together. And now we need a teaspoon of baking soda, not powder. This recipe doesn't actually call for any powder, so most cakes call for baking powder, and that helps make it, I can't say that. It helps make it fluffier. So 1 teaspoon of soda. And this is supposed to be a denser cake, so it doesn't have powder in it. Oh, dang it. I have spilled something, so I might have accidentally grabbed the baking soda by the lid and broken the glass container, causing a bunch of baking soda to spread over the counter with mixed glass, so we had to dump out all the baking soda. Maybe, but we've already put it in, so I guess that's good. But now we've wasted a bunch of baking soda, so I'm having mixed opinions right now. But anyway, so now we need to add in our cinnamon. I'm just gonna pretend that didn't happen. If I can get this open, like I had the same container that the cream of tartar was in, and I was trying to make buttermilk. So maybe this one will open easier. I had a lot of trouble opening that one. Cream of tartar, we're not going to ruin this for me. Okay, yeah, we actually got it. So now, let's see how much we need. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I just use the lid to level it off. These containers are nice, but when you close them, sometimes they get stuck, so it makes it very hard to open. It's nice because
it's not a baby step. They seal well.
So we're gonna mix this in. And I'm gonna grab my sifter real quick. We're gonna pretend that crashing sound never happened either. So now we're gonna put the dry mixture into the wet mixture. Put that right there for right now. So we're just gonna slowly add this in a little bit at a time, and I'm sifting it just so we break up some of the lumps. So now when we mix this in, it's supposed to be thick. So if it seems thicker than most cake batters you've worked with, then that's completely normal because it's supposed to be thick and a denser cake. I'm just dropping things today. I'm just having some issues with keeping things on the table and not breaking things. I'm going to blame it on the rainy weather today though. So, now we're going to cut up our apples, and we're going to need 4 cups of peeled and diced apples. So I'm going to get the peeler and the dicer and come back and start peeling these. Now that I've dropped another bowl, let's try to stop dropping things today, because I seem to have an issue holding things and keeping them on the table. I'm going to try to stop throwing things across the room now. So we're going to peel the apples and hopefully not drop any of them. So we're just going to take a peeler and peel the skin off the apple. So now we've got 1 apple, and I'm going to measure this out and see how much, because we need 4 cups, so I'll be back when the rest of these are peeled and diced. So now we have all of our apples peeled, diced, and in the bowl. Now I gotta put a little bit too much apple in. I'm hoping this doesn't affect the texture, but it looks pretty good. So we're gonna put it in a 9x13 pan with parchment in it. If you don't have parchment, you need to butter it really well, like really well. But in my case, my parchment goes all the way up the side, so I don't have to worry about it. So we're gonna put some in, and the way this should push down the parchment. Spread it out. Look at that. It looks so good. Like, I really want it. It looks really nice and really gooey and sticky, and it looks so good. Okay, so this is going to go in the oven at 350 degrees for 45 minutes. And I'm going to put it in for 40 minutes and then see how it is. And then if it needs to go in longer, I'll put it in for longer. So let's put this in the oven. And I'm going to, while it's doing that, I'm going to make a glaze. So now that it's in the oven, we're going to make our glaze, which I've already pre-made, and it's ground up brown sugar, so powdered brown sugar, vanilla, and plant milk, so like, oh yeah, and a little bit of cinnamon, but the plant milk, like you can use almond milk or soy milk or rice milk, any milk that basically comes from a plant, but I made mine ahead of time. So we have it here, and now the cake's about to come out of the oven. So we'll get that, let it cool, and then we'll put the glaze on the top. Okay, so this is out of the oven. We got it out of the pan, and it looks It smells so good. I took some extra apple and just kind of curled it to make little rosebuds on it. And now we're going to drizzle this on top. So I'm just going to take a little bit and just kind of go over the top with it. Make sure you're moving. And just kind of drizzle it all over. Try not to get too much in one spot. Like I unfortunately have in one spot. This is actually, it's really nice looking. It looks like something you'd find in a bakery. And now you can impress everyone with a really easy German dessert. So here is your German apple cake.